Hello and welcome to the Lakshminarayana Global Music Festival. As our 30th anniversary celebration draws to a close and our first virtual edition of the festival, I'd like to thank you for being on this journey with us, for engaging with this content, for enjoying the music from the comfort of your homes, and for always supporting us. Today's first presentation is a very special conversation between friends. We have Dr. L Subramaniam and one of the West's finest violinists, the legend Ivry Gitlis.
Ready?
Ready.
Clap! Let's restart. Huh? Ah, that's Stefan Grappelli. Stefan. Right.
Wow. That is Stefan. What a...
It really makes you think what is in the human mind that translates itself into a physical, in other words, rendition of this kind of playing. What is it? What is the mechanism of it? I don't know. And I don't want to know in a way. Because if I know, I die, maybe.
Yeah.
I've spent many times, like in the continent of Africa, for example, which I love this continent. I love this continent. I love the people that went to villages, places, play with the people there. I mean, and sometimes you discover incredible musicians there, which probably will never be heard of by anyone else because they are there in the village. And I remember once in Zululand, a long time ago, I went there and I started to play, actually, to them, the Bartók solo sonata, which is one of the most difficult pieces written. It's a combination of Bach and Paganini, translated by Bartók, imagine, you know. Right? And in some places in Europe, people say, oh, this is modern music. No, I don't understand it. But they understood it very well, much better than, because they didn't have any cliches bumped into their heads and crushed into it with all kinds of pre-idea. They listened to music just like this. And the music did to them what, you know. And we, unfortunately, sometimes we go to a concert with preconceived ideas, and we, you know, and then you say, yes, I went to the concert, but I don't know, I was a little disappointed because I didn't hear, I don't know what. I heard the C flat in the last movement. I didn't like it so much. You see, you were talking before, and you were going to ask us, I know, about different cultures and so forth. And I really don't know where is the room for so different cultures. I mean, most of us, no matter where we are, white, black, yellow, I don't know what, from Africa, from Asia, I mean, we all have two nostrils, two hands, and a few other things which are two, some other things are not two, you know, but that's the normal thing. And so I mean, you know, and some people don't like the idea that we might be coming from gorillas, our forefathers were, you know, because it's not really, I mean, we human beings should be coming from monkeys, I mean, for God's sake, really. But monkeys know much more than we do. I mean, I always find that animals have a great advantage on us already. When they get born, the moment they get born, when they get out of their mother's womb, they can already run and walk. They have to, because sometimes danger is too much. We, you know, you talk about a little bit, oh my God, look, he just said, ah, you know, after 1 year. and when he's 20 or she's oh, you know, he's now grown up, you know, he goes to school now. And that's, you know, it takes a long time, you know. Who is more adventurous, you know? Anyway, I said what I didn't have to say. Now I'm ready for anything else.
Very, very interesting. I'm enjoying every bit of it. How did you get into violin?
Well, I'll tell you something. When I was 4, I wanted the violin. I wanted the violin.
When you were 4?
I want a violin. And then when on my 5th birthday, so family, friends, and I got a little money together because we didn't have any money here. And they bought me a violin for my 5th birthday.
5th birthday.
Yeah. But I started to play actually only, really, when I was 6, because I was sick with the eyes and, you know. Yeah.
What was the problem?
The eyes? I had trachoma, which is which at that time, unfortunately, was quite I was almost blind sometimes. I couldn't go and see the sun somewhere, which is good. I mean, I should have been blind now sometimes. Sometimes things you better not see and not think about. But unfortunately, God, whoever He is up there, I mean, gave us brains, so to say, and so eyes to see. Maybe sometimes it would have been not to have eyes and not to have brains, not to be able to think, and just and out.
No, 6 years you started playing. And anybody in your family was a musician?
No, my mother sang. She had a very lovely voice, actually.
She sang opera or songs? Or?
Well, she didn't come to the opera yet because she came to the operation, not to the opera.
So she sang?
She sang. She had a lovely voice.
What kind
she
of
started with
particular music or anything?
No, classical. She sang one of the songs. I mean, she sang to me the Solveig song, you know, from Peer Gynt by Grieg.
Can you hum it? Do you
Da
know
da
it?
dee da da dee, da da dee da dee da dee, da dee dee da dee da dee da. You know that?
Wow.
So beautiful. And every time I hear it, it makes me yeah. And yeah.
If was your father connected with music?
No, my father was not at all. No, he was a very nice man in spite of it. I mean.
In spite of it?
Yeah. No, he wasn't. But you know, they came from Russia to Israel. What was at that time?
Which part of Russia?
Russia from Ukraine, from a town called Kamenets-Podolsk.
So you were born there?
No, I was born in Israel, in Palestine. I was born in Israel. They came before I was born, not after.
Ah.
No, they didn't come to Palestine to get rid of me. They
You were born there.
I was born there, yes. I was born on Mount Carmel.
From there, so your mother used to sing, but in 6 years you started playing. What was your early training period?
Well, my first teacher was a wonderful woman, wonderful teacher, and her name was Velikovsky. Yeah. And she was a pupil of Adolf Busch, you see, who was a great violinist and musician, and famous for quartet Busch, you know. So she was my first teacher.
So where was she?
She was in Haifa, in my hometown, and we were two pupils at the same time. There was another violinist called Zvi Zeitlin, who became very well known too. And we used to have sometimes lessons together at the same time. And she had a studio where she was teaching, was over the railway near what is the port of Haifa now, but then it was a little port. And every time the train was passing, we rushed to the balcony to look at the trains. That was part of our lesson. We were 6 years old. How shall I say, you know, for Jewish families from a certain period in Russia already, practically it was almost, would have been practically ununderstandable if at least one of the children was playing some instrument of music, you know, like this.
Fantastic.
But I wanted to play the violin, so but
subsequently, after the first teacher, what happened?
well, afterwards I had the second, and he was a pupil of Auer, or Leopold Auer, you know, was a great. You see, actually, it's mostly the pupils who made the teacher famous, because I mean, Auer was a very fine violinist himself. Actually, Tchaikovsky dedicated his violin concerto first to Auer, to Leopold Auer. And Leopold Auer said it's too difficult or something, so he took it away and gave it to Brodsky, you know. You know. And Auer was actually originally Hungarian Jewish, but he was in St. Petersburg, and he was a teacher of Heifetz, Ellman. Oh yeah,
All these people.
all these people, and
Great.
so she was. But the second teacher was Mira Benami, was her name, and she was really my most important teacher in my early childhood, in a way, besides Mrs. Velikovsky. And she was a pupil of Sigeti, who was a great violinist, great musician.
More about you. Then subsequently,
Well,
your
more, you know, then...
career took. How did?
Well, I will tell you, Moni, I hate the word career, quite frankly. I really mean... because I think people talk about career. I know, but it took me maybe a lifetime to realize that what we are doing is also a métier. It is how would you say métier? Well, métier is a profession in a way. It is. But, people are very often too much preoccupied with the career and less with the métier of it and less with the reason why you play. I mean, if I ask you, why do you play the violin? Why do you make music? What would you say?
One has to love and be passionate and do because they love it. But at the same time, you became so big in the field. So there must have been some
I'm bigger
stages.
now than when I was 6 or 7 years old. I was little small.
But physically being big is different
Yeah,
than musically being big. So there were steps of things which happened, opened up the whole thing.
But the first thing you said is love. You did.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. Otherwise we can't continue so long.
L'amour.
Earlier, even Western music had improvisation. They were improvising, cadences were being improvised, and the figured bass in Baroque time, everything was supposed to be improvised. Slowly in the Western tradition, they got rid of improvisation. Basically, I think during Mendelssohn time, they started writing all the cadences. So that has closed the mind of a lot of the later generation of people, with few exceptions, where they think improvisation is not needed and cannot be done. What do you suggest? What is your thought?
About improvisation, I mean, I'm not a very good example to talk about it. Because all my life I've been, in a way, doing what people say improvising, because already when I was a child, that's it, when we arrived, we were living in Avenue des Ternes, and we had a little apartment there, and I had a room, I was sort of playing, supposedly practicing, while my mother, for example, was in the kitchen, and she was cooking for the lunch or something, or whatever she did, and I was playing, and she thought I was practicing, which is good. But I was playing, but I wasn't really practicing. I had on the music stand, I had some magazine, or children's magazine, comics or whatever, and I was reading that and playing just so that she thinks I'm practicing.
So you were improvising?
I was improvising. And
How old you were? How old you were?
I was 12, 13, 14.
Amazing.
But even before that. But you see, I mean, sometimes people say the word improvisation almost slightly, you are doing what you can as the best as you can, kind of thing, you know what I mean? But they really don't realize what a fallacy, what an actual insult it is to the idea of music altogether, to say that. Because improvisation, maybe I'm saying, or we are saying, we can say the most idiotic things, very possible. But what is happening is improvisation. I don't know what you may ask me. I don't know what I may tell you or ask you. And that is improvisation. In other words, it's the very sense of life. I mean, the sense of life is not only the fact you are born and you have feet and this and that, and little by little you grow a little bigger and the blood is running in your veins. Well, otherwise you don't live. But the rest of it, I mean, if you don't have a mind that works and invents and catches all kinds of things, then what is the sense of life? I mean, so for me, in a way, the word improvisation, maybe it's the wrong word, but it means to me the actual moment of living, of being. No, I don't know what you think about it.
As in context, in connection with what we do in our system, we have improvisation as a segment where we don't play written, pre-decided material. There are two kinds of improvisation. One is free melodic improvisation, where we just play with the drone, the tambura, nothing else, no percussion, just free melodic lines, and we try to create a certain statement freely without any. That is a melodic improvisation. And we have a rhythmic improvisation where we play a composition which is set to a rhythmic cycle, whatever. It's like a time signature. It could be 11 beat cycle, 5 beat cycle, whatever number of beats. So we play the composition, and after playing the composition, we start the rhythmic improvisation, where with the percussionist taking, because the composition part of it as text. The post-composition part of it, where we start improvising, was called Swara Kalpana. Swara means soul 5 syllables, Kalpana is improvisation in Sanskrit. So where there's no text, but we start playing separate note, that could be 5 notes per beat, 7 notes per beat. So that becomes the rhythmic improvisation, which is over the year it has become the most important part of a concert.
Well, that's what I love about you. Right. And that's what, in a way, how shall I say, I would say almost that even the written music, if you cannot somewhere impulsively, unimpulsively, I mean simply to let your imagination build on it, then you are not playing the work. Otherwise you are just playing the notes. And there are a lot of people, unfortunately, there is a tendency in general way, and not just in music, but in many roads of life or non-life, I would say, today, to equalizing, sort of penalizing and banalizing and levelizing everything to be more or less the same in a way. So this, I think, is pretty tragic in some ways, because okay, there were 20 garbos. Which one of them will you put in the garbage? I mean, there is, if you play, okay, you talk about great concertos, or why do we recognize when the same concertos played, if we think of violence, let's say, of certain violence, let's say, between the 2 world wars, there were at least about 15 great violence, from Haifa to Huberman, to Enesco, to, I don't know, and each one of those playing the same concerto would have been another concerto. You know that very well. Today, you hear on the radio, and you see, maybe, it's not that, you don't know. But if you heard a Chrysler, you know, from the first note, you heard a Haifa, you heard from the first note. Now, it's not an accident, maybe, but it's not a very good accident. Because there is a certain tendency, I think it's partly commercial too, in a way.
You know, as you said earlier, imagination. Somebody, the same piece, same concerto, for example, 5, 6 top people who are, you know, in the golden period performing, they sounded differently. Because they had their own tonality, their own color, because of their imagination, they had something very special. One can immediately identify them from the first note. That is because their own imagination, their own input, and their own bringing in a...
It was not artificial.
Today, when I was in Paris Conservatory, they were very proud. They were mentioning that, I think, Debussy, Fauré, you...
Me, they didn't mention me, come on.
Of course they mentioned.
Really?
You also studied there.
Why didn't you tell me? I would have come immediately. No, I'm joking. Now, come on.
You studied there.
I know.
You taught there also. Did you teach there also?
No. Well, I did once or twice, kind of. Not really. You know, in the Paris Conservatory, can you imagine? Karl Flesch was a student there. I think Kreisler was a student there at one time. Oh yes, but
many years.
Before the end of the...
Enesco also.
Enesco, sorry, all of these people. I don't know, we went naturally to Paris because at that period we couldn't go to Germany because Nazi Germany. And we couldn't go to Russia because also it was not so easy. But that's not why we came to Paris. We came to Paris because Paris, in a way, Paris sera toujours Paris, la plus belle ville du monde. We had a group together called Music in Miniature, not in England. But I was really, before I really started to play more, And there were some very good musicians. There was a cellist called Vivian Joseph, a pianist called Margaret Chamberlain, and clarinetist called Jarreau who became very famous on the tour, and me, and a singer, I can't remember her name now. And we used to go and play in different places, small towns, sometimes in the factories, and my first concert, I actually got £5 fee, each one of us. Well, £5 at that time was a little more. But I knew my rent for the apartment, which I was left from my mother when she left, was £20 a month,
Wow.
So 4 concerts like that paid for the rent. That's how we calculate. This is a Stradivari.
This is the same one you brought it to India?
Yeah. This is 1713.
1713.
Some people only think of a career and they don't make it. Some people don't think about a career and they make it. Hey, show me this one. This.
It's D, astonic. A, D, A. It's tuned
That's
to
really wonderful. Can I try this?
Please.
This is really something. Actually, it's a Russian song. I'm making invented words, but it sounds like Russian. Ах, его не пройди по воде слаб, но пари тихого там погибли той по. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. We should play it together. Next time we meet, let's really play it with the orchestra.
Yes, I love to
Really?
do that. Sure.
Huh? We should record it. I mean it. For God's sake, I mean, that would be the marriage.
That was a conversation and interaction between Dr. L Subramaniam and Maestro Ivry Gitlis. Ivry Gitlis passed away recently at the age of 98 after living a very long and musically fulfilling life. To end this special celebration of 30 years of the Lakshminarayana Global Music Festival, celebrating the life and legacy of Professor V. Lakshminarayana, we'd like to present a composition by Dr. L Subramaniam called Ganga. Ganga features some of the greatest jazz legends. We have Jarreau on vocals, George Duke on piano, Stanley Clarke on bass, also featuring Kavita Krishnamurti Subramaniam and a number of wonderful Indian musicians. This is Ganga.
Saka siki, saka sika. Sweep say the corner, pa pa ju. Pa pa, stick down, pa saka saka, don't know what to do. Da ba. Shake it a bird, pa saka. Saka, saka, da. Speaking to pa. Papa saka da pa. See that that's about the got it all. Oh, back it down, back saka. Do 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 do. That's about do 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 see the moment on that you get no son say it more get it say it you
बहुत बड़ी
Thank you for staying with us through this special celebration of 30 years of the Lakshminarayana Global Music Festival and our first virtual edition of the festival. Throughout this year, we're looking forward to sharing some very special musical performances and conversations with you, so please keep in touch with us, follow us on social media, continue to engage, and as always, please enjoy the music.